Looks like the developers of one of the best games of 2025 are gearing up for a Nintendo Switch 2 release, but not without their technical challenges. We're going to talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, my game of the year for 2025, and many other people's game of the year, and what's going on with the Nintendo Switch 2 version, because Nate the Hate does say that the game is still set for this year, or at least to be announced this year. And now we have some more insight on what's happening with that game. We've also got big Nintendo Switch 2 AAA game updates to go over, and a huge reason why Resident Evil is successful is because of the Nintendo Switch 2. We're going to get into what's happening there and more. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. All right, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the developers talk about the challenges of a Nintendo Switch 2 port and that Unreal Engine 5. You guys know, whenever there's challenges, it's always Unreal. Unreal is around. So the developers of the game talked about it. Let's get into what they had to say. Here's the question first. I think your fans are quite curious about a Switch 2 version. Do you think Expedition 33 would be able to run on the Switch 2? And do you have any such plans at the moment? Here's what Mr. Broche had to say. We are interested in looking for a way to do it, but it's too early for us to announce anything at this point. Mr. Tom also added in saying it's a big technical challenge because we tried to do something beautiful with the game, but of course the Switch 2 is not as powerful as the PlayStation or Xbox Series X, so it's an important thing for us to consider, especially given the size of our studio. The next question was, do you think Unreal Engine 5 is also a challenge when trying to bring Expedition 33 to the Switch 2? Mr. Broche says yes, a lot of features don't work on Switch 2. Mr. Allen says they're introducing features like Lumen Light, which is easier to run than the standard Lumen, but these things take time to roll out, so we'll have to consider the updates coming from Unreal Engine to determine what to do. Now, Unreal Engine 5.8 started to roll out about a month ago. With it came Lumen Light, and Epic Games has indicated that it will be pretty impactful for Nintendo Switch 2. So let's talk about this just a bit, because the interesting thing about them talking this way is that they're trying to not let people know that they're already working on the Nintendo Switch 2 version. It's already been worked on, because there's no way that Nate the Hate would have information about a Switch 2 port, which he says is still coming out this year, going to be announced this year. There's no way that he'd know about that for as long as he's known about that, and they weren't already working on it. Now, the one thing that you can kind of go back to in this interview and talk about where you know something's already in development is because Mr. Broche says it's too early for us to announce anything at this point. Not that they haven't been working on it. They said, hey, we'd like to do it. That doesn't mean that they aren't already are doing it. So clearly it says too early for us to announce anything at this point. Doesn't mean they aren't working on it, which I do think that they are. And yeah, Expedition 33 would be great for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's a traditional style turn-based RPG with its combat, but the story and the cinematics and the graphics are very different from what you'd expect from a JRPG, which they are emulating, which is fine. It gave it a very unique tone and flair, and kind of brought about a lot of people who don't play turn-based JRPGs, and now all of a sudden they want to get into this one. Now, I don't know if those people are ever going to be back for any other big turn-based RPGs, or for like Persona 6 or things like that, but I still think that it was something beautiful what they created, and it was absolutely my game of the year, right up there with Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think those two games were the best games of the year for 2025, so I'm very excited to see what they do next, and of course I'm excited to see what they can do with Expedition 33 on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I think it'd be a pretty cool game to play anywhere that you want, so we'll see what happens with this game. But we've seen what happens when it comes to games that do come over to the Switch 2. They do pretty well, and that's Resident Evil Requiem. Capcom definitely on the top of the world right now. Resident Evil Requiem and Pragmata. We got sales updates Obviously, Switch 2, a big part of both of these games, something that Capcom has actually mentioned, and we've seen a bit when it comes to the Famitsu sales, or when it comes to some of the top Switch 2 sales, eShop charts and all that. So very good to see both of these games doing well. Let's go over exactly what happened here. So total sales for Resident Evil Requiem have surpassed 8.06 million units. That is incredible. And total sales for Pragmata have surpassed 2.51 million units according to Capcom. Now, Resident Evil Requiem launched for the PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC via Steam and Epic Game Store on February 27th. Pragmata launched for the PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC via Steam on April 17th worldwide. The Switch 2 version launched on April 24th in Japan, and the total sales for Resident Evil Requiem were last reported to have surpassed 7 million units on April 24th. Pragmata sold 2 million units in its first 16 days of release, so they put up another 500,000 units plus since then. We also have the updated sales figures for a lot of different games. Monster Hunter World cracked the 30 million sales. Resident Evil 2 is over 19 million sales, almost at 20 million. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, 18 million plus sales. Resident Evil 6, 17 million plus sales. It's pretty good. These are a lot of good sales. Resident Evil 2023, Resident Evil 4 Remake, that sold over 16 million units. Resident Evil games just putting up crazy numbers. Even Devil May Cry at 14.24 million units. Resident Evil 3, that one wasn't even that highly, I would say, lauded, but still, those sales and everything, people got that to 14.52 million units. So it's something that Capcom wants to keep doing. Capcom even stated that they want to make Resident Evil a yearly franchise, which it almost pretty much is. They want to have Resident Evil almost every single year. I think in the last couple years, maybe they didn't have anything, but sometimes they've had like 2 or 3 Resident Evil games when it comes to remakes or re-releases or smaller releases or, digital releases and stuff like that. But I do think that Resident Evil, obviously, massive franchise for Capcom, continuing to sell crazy numbers. Pretty much all of their recent Resident Evil releases for the last decade or so have crossed 14 million units plus. That is an incredible streak there, but I do think that a lot of this is aided Switch 2 when it comes to Resident Evil Requiem. 8 million units plus. If you average out, like, let's just say $60 per revenue on each one of them, you're looking at nearly $500 million when it comes to total revenue made. And once again, that's not including all the special editions and other things that they've done. I just averaged it out with the $60 flat because obviously you're going to have some sales and you're going to have some people going higher and some people going lower, all that type of stuff. But Resident Evil Requiem, incredible. Obviously made a ton of money for Capcom. And for a brand new IP, Pragmata doing incredibly well, 2.51 million units. I would have liked that to be a bit higher considering the quality of it and the amount of gamers that are out there on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. You'd think that there'd probably be a little bit more love for that game, but I still think for, once again, a brand new IP, and an IP that hasn't really been on sale or anything at this point, I think that 2.51 million units is respectable enough. And I think that people will continue to buy Pragmata and it'll continue to do well. I would expect it to maybe be well over 4 or 5 million units or so by the end of the year, especially if there are some sales and discounts. I think this game for Black Friday is going to be a very popular game if it's like $40 or something like that, or even if it's like $30, probably half off because it was a $60 game. So if it's like $30 for Black Friday, I think it's going to do really well towards the end of the year. And Capcom is on a roll. Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter World, all selling incredible units, and that doesn't even include everything when it comes down to it, because Monster Hunter Rise, that also sold over 10 million units plus as well across the Nintendo Switch 1, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and all that. So very good sales numbers here, and of course Capcom embracing Nintendo Switch 2 with their biggest franchises, and you're seeing incredible sales number and support. Even Devil May Cry 5, that also had a nice little eShop run, and I think it's still like in the top 30 or something like that for eShop sales, and you see Devil May Cry selling a lot better now too. So I do think that Capcom did a great job incorporating Switch 2. It's obviously paying off for them. I think that it was crucial for games like Resident Evil and Pragmata, and we're seeing the results of that here. But next we're going to move on to the results of Tormented Souls 2, because we've got a Nintendo Switch 2 launch date for this game. So publisher P-Cube and developer Dual Effect will release survival horror sequel Tormented Souls 2 for the Nintendo Switch 2 on October 15th. The company's announced a physical game keycard edition will also be available. Now, Tormented Souls 2 first launched for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam, Epic Game Store, and GOG on October 23rd, 2025. Here's a little bit more about the game. In Tormented Souls 2, players reunite with Carolyn Walker following the harrowing events at Wilburger Hospital, where her sister Anna is haunted by visions of violence and death that compel her to create disturbing drawings destined to become reality. The sisters travel to an isolated town of Villa Hesse in hopes that a mysterious clinic buried in the mountains of southern Chile can cure Anna of her affliction. Though what appears to be a serene and calming retreat becomes the start of a new nightmare when Mother Lucia and her sinister cult kidnap Anna as part of their twisted plans. So none of that sounds good when it comes down to it. So you have a bunch of key features here that I'll also list. Got flexible gameplay options. I do like that when they do different stuff here. It says relive the classic fixed camera survival horror of the 90s with limited saves and tank controls, or switch to assisted mode for a more casual experience. So they're trying to emulate that Resident Evil style, and I was actually tracking this game quite a bit. I think it looks pretty cool. If you like old school Resident Evil, then obviously this game is going to be for you. This is like an old school style Resident Evil game. It has all of the type of stuff there. You got cults and all sorts of weird shadowy towns and everything. It looks really good. The only thing that I don't like is that it's a game key card. It would have been nice if it was a regular type of game, but it literally looks like Resident Evil in a modern day, like tank controls, old school, fixed camera, Resident Evil. It looks like that. And the graphics are pretty good. The Switch 2 version looks like it has some nice graphics here as well. So this is going to be a pickup for me. I'm going to check this one out. I think they did a great job from the gameplay that we're showing off here. I think it looks really cool. So Tormented Souls coming October 15th. Some alternative Resident Evil type of experience if they decided to go with the fixed cameras and tank controls to the modern day. This is pretty much what it would be. So what do you think about Tormented Souls 2? You can let me know. But going from a game key card to an actual real physical game, we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate Switch 2 Edition, new DLC character announced as well. So we can't just have a game keycard. We got to have a real on-cart physical announced too. I can't leave you guys in a bad mood that way. So let's talk about this. So Super Evil Megacorp will release a physical edition of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate for the Nintendo Switch 2 on October 17th, as well as a new downloadable content character to be revealed soon, the developer announced. Now let's get into this here. Physical Legendary Edition arrives on Switch 2 later this year. Big news for Physical Edition enthusiasts. Mark October 27th on your calendar. That's when the retail Legendary Edition of Splintered Fate launches on the Nintendo Switch 2, packed with premium content, including a fan favorite playable character. Downloadable content will be revealed soon. Stay tuned. Casey Jones and the Junkyard Jam expansion, a brand new Junkyard level featuring intense boss fights, a fresh narrative, and iconic Casey Jones as a playable character. Metalhead and Alopex playable characters. Take control of the lovable, locked and loaded Metalhead, Splinter Fate's first fully ranged fighter, alongside Alopex, the mutant Arctic Fox and former ninja assassin who became one of the Turtles' most trusted allies. Both heroes bring their own unique combat styles to the fight. Digital art book. Go behind the scenes with a collection of concept art and final designs for characters, locations, key art, and icons. All free content updates. Experience every free update released to date, including the fan favorite arcade mode. The Switch 2 Legendary Edition is officially launching at all major retailers later this year. Want to secure your copy before it hits the shelves? Pre-orders are live right now, so don't wait and reserve yours today. So I played Splintered Fate. It was on sale for like, I think it was like $5. I know it was something really cheap, the digital version of this game, but I will be supporting the physical version of the game because you guys know we need to let these developers and these publishers know that we want physical games. We need to see physical games. We need to see them bring it back when it comes down to that. We got a number of actual real physical carts coming through this year. Obviously the Xenoblade games, all Nintendo first party stuff for the most part, but also Lies of P later this year. That's going to be on physical cart. We got Orbitals as well. That's also a real on physical. That's coming September. I got that pre-ordered. So very good. Very excited for the Splintered Fate real physical on-cart game. These cool characters, Casey Jones. I like Casey Jones. This Alopex character looks pretty dope too. And once again, full on-cart physical pre-orders are now live at this point. And this is a Switch 2 exclusive Legendary Edition, so you're not going to see this type when it comes to everything that's included here anywhere else. This game is other platforms, but this package of the games plus the physical edition, so very cool. So what do you guys think about everything here that we talked about? A lot of third-party stuff, a lot of cool news. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.